Here I go. Dr. Daniel David Otobo is a distinguished global surgery fellow at Operation SMILE, United States of America, and an accomplished member of several international medical organizations, including American Academy of Neurosurgeons, AAN, the Association of Featured African Neurosurgeons, AFAN, that one I know, and the World Medical Association. In 2019, Dr. Daniel, while still a medical student, he established the Nigerian Health Student Summit, Nigerian first physical One Health Student Conference. I think you clap for that now. Which attracted over 300 participants from across the country. That same year, in 2019, he co-founded the One Health Virtual Summit and led the inaugural Students Against Tuberculosis workforce to the International TB Conference. Thank you for clapping. He has more than said that again. Wow. Dr. Otobo co-founded the African Health Student Summit, AHESS, in 2020, an initiative focused on public health emergencies and African health challenges. The organization was featured at the first conference for public health in Africa and supports the African Primary Healthcare Initiative. As a global surgery enthusiast and aspiring neurosurgeon, Dr. Otobo co-founded the African Forum of Global Surgery in 2021. In 2022, Dr. Daniel served as the Vice President of International Surgical Student Network, overseeing activities across over 60 countries. His extensive experience and dedication to advancing surgical care make him a virtual contributor to understanding and addressing barriers in accessing to surgical care in Nigeria. Here with me this morning, we have our own brother that is ready to willing and ready to give back to his source. Please welcome with me Dr. Daniel David Otobo to the podium. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. It's working. I'm very happy to be here, and please forgive me, I'm shy. I've actually enjoyed the past 2 days here. It has been a very wonderful experience. It has been enlightening, it has been educating, and above all, it has been nearly. We had such events as this happening frequently in Nigeria. I think health system will be a better place today. I am going to be speaking about the barriers we encounter in Nigeria when trying to provide surgical care. That's the layman interpretation of the big grammar on this screen. I'm Dr. Daniel David Otobo, and I'm a global, and I'm also an African, not an African. It's very important for us to realize something. In this hall, I feel we are all health workers. And tell me if you can palpate it, everybody. I'm sure if you put your hand on the lateral border of your wrist, you would feel your radial pulse pulsating. From professors to consultants in the house, everyone will be ready to move stuffs right now about how that is the reflection of your systole and diastole pulsating from your heart. Feel is time. Time is not defined changing tonight. Time is not the clock ticking or your seconds moving, no. Time is your heart beating. Every systole and diastole, one beat at a time, bringing you closer to the last beat. The question at hand is, when are we going to approach that last bit? Or how are we going to approach that last bit? You see, in emergency medicine, there is something known as the critical 4 minutes. The beauty about these 4 minutes is accomplishing every minute brings you closer to internal minutes. There will be no waking up. If you want to understand the concept of this, the concept of delay, you need to value every second. Let me tell you why. When the patient cannot breathe, there's no oxygen going into the body. And it takes about 1 minute for the blood to go from your heart around your body. The value of oxygen in your blood, that vital thing, has dropped by 25%. And when you cannot breathe, when a patient is bleeding, when a patient is distressed, your heart does not stop. It keeps going around. So in every circle, 25% drops. Count with me. In the first minute, how many percent? The second minute, third minute. And in the fourth minute, there is no oxygen in that blood. What happens to the brain? Your neurons take seconds to die in the absence of oxygen. And that's why often when they say, if you've resuscitated for about 5 minutes, the patient hasn't recovered, stop. You have 4 minutes. Where is Nigeria today? We are within these 4 minutes. And we are dying, but who is counting? I am here to walk you out of the 4 minutes today. But I will do this by telling you the stories that we never tell. We are all health workers. I was in a different department and I went to greet my colleague in another department. And I saw a little girl. Her abdomen was distended and tensed. And she was saying, please give me water. Make it cold. My stomach is hot. By the way, there was air conditioning in that room. Why is her stomach hot? I asked. And I was a medical student then, and my consultant who I went to greet told me, oh, she's having peritonitis. Her abdomen is on fire. Her name was Perpetua. Perpetua was a little girl whose father had just died, and her uncle brought her to the city to care for her because the mother was not really working. But what was his job? He was a security officer. In Nigerian terminology, Megad. And when she had little fevers and headaches, they were in the house. In fact, they were taking dogoyaro. The next week, it worsened. By the end of the second week, she landed in the hospital. And then they told her she's having typhoid perforations. That's complication of prolonged untreated typhoid. The surgery was going to cost 40,000. They couldn't afford it. And what did the hospital do? Sorry, I'm not going to mention the name of the hospital. I like them. The hospital referred her to a different hospital. You know, I don't know if they do it in Lagos. In Abuja, when we don't want to treat you, we keep referring you until you die on the road. Everybody that shouted on has joined me to sign referral form before. So, they now referred her, but she did not even have money to afford the ambulance. So I saw her, and I had 10,000 in my account, which I was planning to use to woo one lady that weekend. But I just carried it and gave Perpetua, and they used it to pay for the ambulance. My dad came back from a trip, so he came back by 12 midnight that night, and I told him, see what's happening. For 40,000 naira. By 1 a.m., we drove into the streets of Abuja. We're going from hospital to hospital searching for them. And around 2 a.m., we were somewhere else in Abuja, and then a doctor called that, oh, such a patient has just been brought in to National Hospital. Long story short, my dad paid for her surgery. She got the surgery. But somewhere between the complicated case and another negligence practiced there, Perpetua died 2 days after. Or was it on the 22nd of October, 2017, when a school bus conveying 5 to 8-year-old children was rammed by a construction vehicle. If you've not seen people decapitated before, be a neighbor, I'll show you. They were bringing people a piece of the body at a time. But you see, there was no ambulance. Obviously, cause of death must also have been means of transportation. This is an emergency. But we did not have what? Ambulance. And then they were bringing them on back of motorcycles. They were putting them in the boots of pickups. Have you seen when police is bringing patients to the hospital, they put it in the boot? True of us. If you like, don't enter, you die on the road. And many of them died because there was no means of transportation to the hospital. Perpetua died because of financial hindrance. And then we have religion and culture. I don't want to speak about my time in Bauchi State. We'll sleep here. Let's speak instead about TBS, traditional bone setters. Was it the matron who, because of family beliefs, took her son who had a tibial fracture, not avulsion, sorry, to a traditional bone setter? And he fixed the bones, and the bones healed side by side. Definitely there will be limb shortening. And then they brought her to the orthopedic clinic. This is a boy that has started walking again. But by the grace of God, he was walking like this. So we looked at him, and he's not having any pain. So what do? We break his legs again. We used ketamine. We used diazepam. We doused him with things that would make you see vision and come back. The pain woke him up. The pain woke him up. Or was it when I was walking? Oh, shit, I can't call the name of the place, sorry. A Jehovah's Witness husband was watching his wife die after delivering her first child. And her mother kept telling her, don't accept the transfusion. It is Jesus that gives life. And the husband is in hysteria. He's confused. She was having a puerperal sepsis complicated by severe anemia, PCV of 9. She was now unconscious. She was cold and clammy. She wasn't producing urine anymore. And the husband walks into my HOD's office and he says, sir, what's up? The HOD says, right now, 1 pint of blood will make the difference. And he puts his hand on the table and says, take 2. The next time they walked into my office, it was spectacular. My office was very fine. I mean, you don't want to know where I was working, trust me. But when they walked into the office, I forgot all these things. I stood up and hugged them. I did not recognize the woman. She had to remind me that she was the white body that I was already writing certificate for. That delay was caused by what? Beliefs. Welcome to Nigeria, where malaria does not have to do much to end our lives. We can do it ourselves. Now, a delay is simply a delay. But you see, most people call the 3 delay structure the World Health Organization's delay structure. But it wasn't invented by the WHO. However, you would need to understand that this delay structure applies to everybody. The O and G are the ones that made it famous. But when we come towards surgery, you will notice that the delay also applies to surgery. And something interesting is, I heard Mr. Jesse complain that they are overwhelmed with surgeries in the US. You need to come to India. I was with Dr. Diana in Ethiopia. We did about 50 surgeries, I think in the space of 4 days. In India, that was 139 surgeries in the same 4 days. Africa only performs less than 6% of all the surgeries that occur in the world. So where is the remaining surgical burden going to? It's going there. But between the time you save money to get your airfare, I mean, I'm going to Kenya tomorrow and the airfare is very expensive. It can pay for someone's chemotherapy, chief. With the expensive stuff, not the cheap stuff. Between the time you get your airfare and the time you finally convince your family to pray for you, and then your pastor permits you to go, or your imam permits you to go, you are delaying. You could just walk to Lut and do the surgery, but you can't actually. The 3-stage delay system is known as delay to seek care. And that statement is associated with a lot of things causing the delay to seek care. The second one is delay in getting to the healthcare facility when by the grace of God you have decided to seek the care. And the final structure is when you get to the hospital in the Nigerian context. Matron, I'm dying. Sit down there. Have you bought card? No. Go and open card. Matron, but I say I'm dying. Go and open card. See, got me a letter. Go and open card. And then, or the patient cannot breathe. And instead of you to nebulize and oxygenate the patient, you send the patient for X-ray. Yesterday's presentation, what were you expecting? The patient will not come back now because the X-ray gives spiritual oxygen. The delay in assessing the actual care you need is the third delay. And in Nigeria, we're guilty of these three structures of delay. Delay in seeking care in Nigeria is mostly what? Finance. I mean, God forbid, I have someone that has breast cancer, and I'm in the 30 billion gang. Nobody will even know you have breast cancer. We will not seek for money in the church. We will pay for your surgery immediately. Yes or no? But when, don't be offended, Chief, I know you're a consultant, but your salary, if you were working in Nigeria, it's not up to $1,000. True of us. If you are working in Nigeria under the government, your salary is no more than 1.5 million. Even the consultant earning 1.5 million, they've done ritual somewhere. Not literally, I'm joking. But you can't even afford care with your surgery. You can't afford care with your salary. Nigeria, number one, healthcare financing. Socioeconomic factors are the next most prevalent reasons why we don't seek care in the first place. In 2018, at the Nigerian Medical Association conference, I spoke to them on someone who died from simple malaria. He started from simple malaria, he went untreated, and he progressed to cerebral malaria. A little girl. They were doing evangelism stuff, and so they were praying away the headache and fever. The last time they prayed was during the laying in state at the funeral. The second delay, accessibility to facilities. You know, there's this structure that says you should be within a 2 hours radius of every facility. So if I'm working in WHO, I'm going to browse Oakland Hotel. I'm going to browse closest hospital. And to show Oakland Hotel is within 2 hours of the closest hospital. By 9 a.m., try and get from Oakland Hotel to the closest hospital in Lagos. Or try to get from Lut to Ikorodu. The delay you will face. So assessing the facility goes way beyond just the geographical proximity. Is there a car to move the patient? Is there an ambulance? I was recently in Italy, and a power bike rider lost consciousness in front of me on the main road. And I was the closest doctor to the scene, and I responded. And they are very wonderful people. Someone else came and lifted the power bike away from his body and stuff and resuscitated him beside the road. Before I could even finish the number of A, B, C, D resuscitation, assess the patient, there was an ambulance beside me. Now, juju. There was an ambulance beside me. Oh, okay, that's a white country. Cool. 2019, I was in Kenya. There are big buses in Kenya known as Matatu. In Lagos, that was what we had, Omolue. They took it there and they call it Matatu. It doesn't kill them the way it used to kill us. And someone kept coughing and coughing and coughing in the bus. And the driver does what? He calls the ambulance service. They meet us halfway on the road. We stop. They come into the ambulance with a stretcher. And they take the patient. And the patient is complaining of very serious headache. If you are in surgery, someone's complaining of worst headache they've had in their life. You know you're about to have a subarachnoid hemorrhage, intracranial bleeding. They do what? They put a neck collar and they immobilize the patient there. In Kenya or not London. And they move the patient out of the bus. The means of getting to the hospital, accessibility to the facility, is more than just the distance to the facility. In those school children who encountered the accident that decapitated a lot of them died on the road. Someone has a head injury, TBI, from an accident. The bleeding has happened, and thanks to thrombins and platelets, it has what? Stopped. And then you carry the person in your car and you're going, Abba, let's be realistic. If the spine had not decided to dislocate before, it would dislocate. Or someone has a simple Okada accident. Abba, come to University of Abuja Teaching Hospital. Look at our spine ward. All the patients with spinal injury are Asia A. Who knows what it means? Asia A is the worst spinal injury. There is no motor or sensory function from their neck down. See 20-year-olds, see 15-year-olds, see young men just married. I remember the first time I saw someone that was his waist down paralyzed. I said, thank God for your life. Oh. Because all his brethren couldn't even move their hand. He was drinking tea. Many of these injuries happen when going to the hospital. The third delay, receiving of adequate care. I don't know, to a large extent, unless you are going to a private hospital, if you have trauma, or maybe you are going to MAAN if you have cancer, or you are going to somewhere else. I mean, do we really give adequate care in Nigeria? It's not that we don't want to. Are we able to with the facilities on ground? And we've done it in a way that if the patient does not actually buy that card, by the way, it's not the matron's fault. If the patient doesn't buy the card and the matron attends to that patient, you are in trouble. I've attended to a patient before. He was unfortunately drunk and driving, and he was a Saina driver coming from Kogi State into Abuja. And then they had an accident, and everybody was in dire state, and he just dislocated his wrist. And me, in overzealousness, I jumped on the scene. I immobilized the wrist. I relocated his dislocation. I did this, I did that. I finally slept after 2 hours of sleep. If you are a doctor and you're on call, if you get 2 hours of sleep, you know what it is. After 2 hours of sleep, I finally woke up, and I went to go and get details from the patient. Driver don't miss. And then, the next day, I did not know how to tell my consultant, Chief, see what happened last night. I did not know how to speak. So we're running clinic. You know, they say if you hear no evil, you see no evil, you speak no evil, there is no evil. So I didn't mention anything to the consultant. I thought it would what? Go away. And then HOD pharmacy comes into our clinic the next day holding a paper. And Dr. Gaji, one of your trainees, Dr. Daniel, did a taboo last night. He took 5 cray bandages. He took diazepam. He said he wanted to make someone that was irritable sleep. He took this, he took that. He even collected POP, the one I wanted to use for my niece. They've not brought the money. It totals 25,000. Abba. God knows in my account that time I had like 3K. I started sweating. And then my consultant, God bless him. Yesterday I said the first surgery I assisted in was Orif. He was the one that dragged me to the theater. God bless him. He looks and he told her, Ma, what did you eat this morning? She said, sir, that's not the question. Ma, what did you eat this morning? She said, rice and beans. And he said, did they use crepe bandage in cooking rice? Did they use POP in making beans? Does this lanky man look like he ate those things? He used it to save human life. And right now, the human beings he saved, unfortunately, have jackpot. So who do we hold? Is it Dr. Daniel or the security? You. Mrs. Okpeyemi, at some time on the 8th of January this year, where was I coming back from? I knew it wasn't something evil. I was coming back from somewhere. And on the express, I saw a crowd gathered. And you know Nigerian, if person pie, you covered person with leaves. Hopefully the photosynthesis will take the soul to heaven. But they covered someone with leaves on the floor. And I was in a boat and we're just moving. And don't be offended. All of us know, nurses and doctors, When we see dead bodies, we don't feel anything. And so all I registered in my brain was, that's a dead person. But the side of my eye caught something. The chest of the person moved. And then I screamed, stop the car, take us back, take us back. And the boat driver was scared. I think he slowed down because he was scared, not because he understood what I was saying. And then I said, I'm a doctor. By the way, I was dressed like a Yahoo boy that day. So I reintroduced myself. I said, I'm a doctor. If they know I'm a doctor, you know how they will charge me now. Let's be frank. And then I said, I'm a doctor. Take us back. That woman is alive. But there were men standing around there. Her story was a very fine 2017 Toyota Corolla. Black. Ran over her on the road. Slowed down. The person came down and looked at her, entered the car and continued running. So they carried her to the side of the road and then covered her with leaves. And someone put white hanky over her face. And then we ran back and there were people standing there, but they did not know what to do. And guess what? I run there. I check her pulse, at the same time removing the hanky. Her pulse was very beautiful. Removed the hanky, there was blood bubbling in her mouth. What is that? She's trying to breathe. All we had to do was flip Miss Okpeyemi to the side and hit her back. And the blood came out and she started breathing. Don't clap, oh, she's in heaven. And then we put her in the car and rushed her to the hospital. I have pictures of her in the car while we were rushing her to the hospital. They don't look beautiful. There was a lot of time wasted from lack of knowledge, basic knowledge. So I invented something. Okay, by the way, the reason she died is because when we got to the hospital, the doctor that was on duty, I'm not calling out anybody, but apparently he says, doctors don't get involved in resuscitation. It's the job of the nurses. So he was watching. And I wanted to assist the nurses, and they say, please, don't join us. We have the way we do things here. And I said, I have 10 years of patient experience. And you people they say, sorry, you've brought her, you've done your part. Go and pay for card. And so I let them be. Do you know what they used to put endotracheal airway? Spanner. So when I came back, they were listening to me and I said, what happened? And then the doctor in his incompetence, the nurse just spoke to them. He told them that, he knows you, that this is what you used to do every day. They should listen to you. We rushed the patient to National Hospital, and between the wrong IV fluid and something, she became brainstem dead. And now what we don't know is, was the mistake made in the first hospital or in National Hospital? Or was it just very late presentation? When blood is not going to the brain, you have what? 4 minutes. She was on that floor for more than 4 minutes. So which part of the brain had become ischemic? We don't know. But the last person she ever spoke to before she died was me. And what did she say? I am scared. Subsequently, I invented a project known as Project Okpeyemi. It was something I trained our 200 corps members in CPR. And it was named after her because what inspired it was there were all those people around and nobody knew how to even certify if she's alive or dead before we get to resuscitation and using common sense to take a human being to the hospital. In Nigeria, now we've gone from out of hospital setting into the hospital. We have less than 41,000 health facilities. And we all know that this is almost a colloquial term for glorified pharmacy. They are not equipped enough to the standard of the African Union or WHO definition of primary health care. So we have, let's call this 6,200 hospitals to feed more than 233 million people. This was the population of Nigeria as at 11:59 p.m. yesterday. I wish the hospitals were growing like this. What is the problem? Are these 6,200 hospitals well equipped? Are they well staffed? Do you really think that the absence of health workers is only due to Japa? Or was it not in Lagos that a medical doctor who turned boat driver was killed? Or have you all forgotten? Health workers are now entering tech. Me and somebody who graduate medical school, I'll look at your bio, I'll see tech bro. And you are getting I was chatting with a medical lab scientist yesterday. We served together. And I said, where are you working? He said, a new job, same job description. I said, wow. In Nigeria, I said, yes. He's working a remote job, so he stays at home. He earns $500 a week. A week, oh. A week. Tell me why he will go and enter where he will be collecting blood and somebody will be insulting you. Now, in addition to insufficient facilities, Nigeria also suffers from a lot of surgical burdens. What I mean by surgical burden is we have pathologies that require surgeries, but we don't have surgeons to do the surgeries. And so, we have more traditional bone setters than orthopedic surgeons. We have more Baba Aisha herbal medicine curing cancer, or rather, no, treating cancer than MICURE. We have cleft. Do you know that Nigeria has a high burden of cleft lip, cleft palate? But you don't see them because of social stigma, by the way. What? All these 6 things, they are known as neglected surgical diseases. Because most likely, a lot of countries in Africa have them and don't treat them, and LMICs, low middle income countries, have a lot of them and don't treat them, and these people get to live their lives like that. We are celebrating that in Nigeria. Let's not get to neurosurgery, please. So what happens when you find yourself in a precarious situation in Nigeria, requiring emergency surgical or surgical care? You pray that hopefully your neighbor has a car, or you pray that hopefully there's a road safety car passing. This is our ambulance, 2 of us. In Nigeria, this, if you are lucky enough to have an accident and this passes, then don't be offended and maybe the last person they carried was a dead body. Just manage the orthopedic bed you are lying down on and get to the hospital in peace. Yeah, that is true. That is true. I think that was Christmas of 2017. There was an attack on Equa Church, and they both the dead and the living together in the boot of the car. Now, Nigeria has the highest rate of road traffic accidents. In Nigeria, you would come to understand that our RTA is the highest in Africa. And when you look at the burden of road traffic accidents, it's more in it is NEMA. But is NEMA more funded than the police, the road safety, and the civil defense? If you don't have the answer to that question, when I heard people speaking about 10% of our national budget for health, I was laughing. About a year ago, I wrote a paper on healthcare financing in surgery. I think the highest Nigeria has attained so far is giving 4.7% of the national budget to health. So that 10%, I beg, calm it down. If we reach 10%, we would have touched the Abuja Declaration. Now, when you look at the road to global surgery, which is surgical care for everyone, for the right person, at the right time, and at the right place, and it's what? safe. When you are trying to attain that, you don't just look at the hospital. You don't just stop at health systems. Healthcare and health system is not a closed system. A closed system in science is a system that does not communicate with an external system. Everything is done within it. Healthcare is affected by everything that happens in Nigeria. Look at the index of JAPA. Look at when Dr. Chinelo died in that train accident. When trainees in medicine and in nursing started dropping dead in the hospital because of stress. Or nobody has heard of doctors here just finish a call, or nurses finish a call, then they just fall on the floor and go. It's a common occurrence here. It happens a lot. When people realize that doctors are getting kidnapped because someone lied to them, have you gone to Google and seen how much nurses get paid and how much doctors get paid in Nigeria? It's in millions. And you are there. You are doing your UK interview. Why do you want to emigrate? I'm seeking asylum because I work very hard and I don't earn a lot in my country. And the person interviewing you is browsing on his phone and he's seeing you earn $1,500. And what are you saying? Who are you lying to? Google needs to be sued. Now, for us to attain timely care, we need to do a lot of things. This is quite small, but I try to look at cost of things in Nigeria, yes? And so, this is money anyway, so let's just look at it. So the main cost of care, accident and emergency. You are going to school, you are going to church, and then you have an accident. And then you are rushed to the A&E. Between when you enter the A&E and when you are thinking about your life, they are asking you to pay 80-something thousand naira. Because it looks small, it comes small. From price of card to, they'll tell you to buy a good ceftriaxone because your bone is sticking out, so that they'll start giving you the IV to prevent subsequent osteomyelitis. You are buying this, you are buying that. Money is climbing. How much is yam these days? In fact, I commonly say how much is kidney these days. The yam is how much? Who here can just cough out 100,000 in the next 5 minutes to treat something that they did not even plan? The new reality of Nigeria is not even helped by the fact that the cost of things are still what? Rising. It's worsening the delay in our country. And so, if we want to improve global surgical care in Nigeria, we would need to look at the 6 indicators that were laid out by the Lancet Commission for Global Surgery in 2015. And if we want to simplify it, we want to look at the surgery, the surgeons, the system, the stuff, the space, the skill. What surgeries are attainable here? We have neurosurgeons. But have you tried to go online and search for endovascular neurosurgery in Nigeria? The highest we've been able to achieve is aneurysm clipping to stop the aneurysm from bursting. Oh yeah, now it has busted. What next? Heaven is the goal. Have you looked at the surgeons? Have you seen the burden of needed surgeons we have in the country? Have you looked at our health system? Let me not talk about it. Have you looked at the stuffs we have to accompany surgery? The equipment. I was telling the CEO of Makecure that our PET scan arrived, and we heard about it, and everybody was like, finally, there's a PET scan in Nigeria. Everybody was so happy. Although at the time we thought it was in Lutz anyway. Now I've seen the gospel. But that is the only PET scan in Nigeria, PET, positron electron tomography. That's very, very vital to the management of cancer. And it's one in Nigeria, the biggest economy in Africa, most populated black nation in the world. The this and the that, the movers or shakers of melanin. And you have only one PET scan, and you are even praising yourself. And instead of you to get more PET scan, you are changing anthem. Now, Have you looked at the space? The space needed in Nigeria, we don't have a lot of space. And I was even happy when I heard someone speaking about they build very shabby theaters now, and then they leave the theater manager to try and recreate the theater in his mind. Anyway, my time went faster than me. Nigeria has a national surgical obstetric trauma and anesthesia plan with a lot of wonderful policies written on it. So I wasn't surprised when I heard, oh, we have a lot of policies. Who is implementing it? I was just laughing. We have an NSOTA, and a lot of things were listed in it, which are meant to be the standard of management. But are we doing it? We are not. Have you heard of the Abuja Declaration? It was declared in Nigeria, Gongon, and it states that every African nation must give 15% and above of its national budget to health. My research showed Nigeria gave 4.7%. So the Abuja is not even Abuja. So it's obvious that Nigeria has what? Taken the declaration and thrown it away. Now, so where do we go from here? We can't be treating one patient at a time. How many people would we cure at MICure? You can't cure 233 million people there. So we need to what? We need to go back to the drawing board. On day one, when I spoke of health policy, it was the drawing board. A good health policy, you have what? An idea, you meet like minds, you create a policy brief. You outline everything you want to achieve. Don't talk too much in your policy. Don't want to cure cancer and make the leper walk and feed the Israelites in the wilderness in one policy. Be focused. When you have your policy brief, you bring together the influential stakeholders that are going to act. You are making a policy about how to improve nurses. And on the board is the Minister of Health and the Cabinet Secretary for Health. And the nurses are watching it on television. You bring the appropriate stakeholders on board. You hear the truth as it is. And then you now move forward. Policy adoption. You don't need to protest. You don't need to campaign. On the Senate, we have people known as head of Senate Committee for Health. You get to them, they present this policy, and it's adopted. Most of our leaders, lawmakers, don't know a lot about health, so you educate them. And then you do what? You launch and implement. This is where we get it wrong. Monitoring and evaluation. If you monitor and evaluate, and the system is not working, you remodify. They do this. The people who are running to, they do this. Our brothers here in Africa, they do this. We don't. This is the process of making a good policy. And when you want to get stakeholders, you do what is known as policy mapping, and then you draw your charts, you look at who is more influential, who is going to push for this, and then you get a good policy. You improve things. We can start from one thing at a time. So I suggest we start from policies that help us deal with phase one, deciding to go to the hospital. Why don't we make policies that make it compulsory for every religious house to remind their members that Okay. Now we need to look at things as a nation, as a community, and as a family. I initially did not intend to spend this long on this presentation. However, I felt it important to also be detailed so that we understand the reality on ground. None of us here is too small to make a difference. I heard someone on the first day say she had an audience with the First Lady. If you can have an audience with the First Lady, take a suggestion to her. Go with the DNS of your hospital. She invites the Commissioner for Health. And you push for something so little as a policy in your state. And little by little, you improve health in Lagos State. And before you know it, you can improve health in Nigeria. Now, I think I do not need much conclusion. Like Dr. Barton will say, make the conclusion yourselves. Thank you so much.
A beautiful round of applause. We can do that more better, more better. You know, at a point, I want to become so emotional, regular. But later I call myself. So I want you to appreciate him for that presentation again. That's a life, practical. Everything he said is so real, is what we are facing. Thank you for that presentation. Dr. Daniel this morning was saying the way they were coming back to Nigeria is that the first thing that happened is that the light went off. And to now crown it all, during his presentation, yeah, please don't put this on the map. You know we are just trying. Yeah, I'm coming from that place. I was angry. Nobody has been seeing things that are going wrong here, serious. But we thank God for the success. So you know what I mean. Yeah, so thank you for that. I will just give room for, there won't be much question because one of things he said is just for us to like see what's going on. So when you go back to your facility, it will cheer you up. The little you can do, you do it. So I'll just give room for just two people. Yeah, okay.
Good morning, everyone. This will be my first time of speaking here. Okay, this is for a reason. Daniel, David, we are like minds when it comes to standing for the truth. When you talked about the government changing national anthem, some people frowned their faces. But I think that in Nigeria, we actually need people that can confront, even if it is the government. Although we say, yes, they are the highest powers, Christians, there are certain things we should not do, quite all right. But the thing is, the truth is staring us in the face, and at the same time, we are denying it. Yes, all of us come together and we talk about it, and we are enthusiastic, we are happy, we are moved, and we want a change. But after this, I will shock you that a lot of people will not do anything about it. So I don't know if it's possible that talk as a whole. Okay, let me do. When you talked about attending to emergency cases, a lot of health professionals don't know how to attend to emergencies, how to identify it and attend to it immediately, not to talk of the general public attending to it. So I would love us an indulged talk to start something in Nigeria. At least we have all health professionals here in talk from different parts of Nigeria and even across the globe. So if we can start a movement that we are able to organize young people, let's start from the young ones, and train them on how to attend to emergency conditions instead of waiting for the government to do it. I think if we start, the government can see our efforts and probably join in. So instead of waiting for, yes, policies are there, instead of waiting for the policies to, I think we should start something. We can start somewhere. We can divide ourselves in different states and start something from there. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. And Dr. Daniel, I've watched you with keen interest right from the beginning of this conference. And just like the other speaker, I'm just going to build on what she had said already. And I think this is the second conference I'll be attending this year. The first one was pharmaceutical with other multidisciplinary, and this is the second one. So I actually intended attending this conference because it's my field. This is where I belong. So I decided to attend. And right from the beginning, I've just been sitting down there with very keen interest, listening to everything. And I've discovered that we talk a lot. We talk a lot. But the question is, when do we start walking the walk? When do we start doing those things that we, let lots of recommendations? Another thing I observed is that TORG is bringing the whole operating theater into one place. And this is Lagos State. Nigeria has 36 states. Some states are represented here. Lagos State is fully represented with the advisor to the minister of, to the commissioner of, advisor to the Lagos State government. But what happens to other states that have no representation? We're talking about primary health, we're talking about secondary and tertiary. We're not fully represented here. I don't know if at the end of this conference, there's going to be a communique, that will reflect all that we have said here, so that we don't just come here, do the talk, and we don't walk the walk. See, the disparity when you compare Nigeria to other countries of the world is too large. Our problems are enormous, so huge. We don't even know where to start it from. It's like we are the grassroots. When you talk about the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs, we are the base. People are talking about self-actualization in other countries and all that, but we're still at the base, looking for the basic things. And I don't know really. I don't know whether this is a question or a recommendation or just I'm talking the talk, but I mean, it beats my heart that do we start implementing all of this thing? We just come to a common room like this, we do, and we all go home, we have had conferences. It starts with me. The change starts with me. It starts with you, but we get that things will be implemented and they'll be taken over for.
Thank you so much for your wonderful contributions. Okay. I feel most of the contributions are addressed to TORG. Dr. Adebu Solama, the questions they're asking me were actually addressed to you. The first one, what we TORG do about emergency medicine. The second one, what we TORG do communicate to those who are not here. But everything everyone has said is true. You can't keep waiting for the government. In 2018, NMA Johesu had a fight. It led to a strike. People died. I am an individual. I was a medical student. And so what did I do? I convened the largest gathering of multidisciplinary medical students, and I hosted a conference. It was self-funded. I found the need, and my father paid for the need. And I saved someone, and I found that what was lacking was the knowledge of emergency care. And I single-handedly trained 200 people, corpers, and more than 20 NYSC staff. Trust me, it wasn't beans. If you keep waiting for the government, you won't cook that beans before you eat it. Kokoro will enter inside. And we have to face our reality. This is where we are. We can only get to where they are step by step. But like she said, when does it get to Nigeria? If you tell somebody and I tell somebody, now 4 people have heard. Thank you so much.
I want the final to respond.
Thank you so much, everyone. I must first of all say that that presentation was really insightful and it was relevant. It's something that we needed as at this time, especially in this contemporary society. Thank you for doing good justice to that. I even got one of the feedback from online participants saying Nigeria really needs to do something about this. Someone said, I've been listening to that doctor since. I think this is the time to do something about that. So I must really say thank you for honoring the invitation to come even to this conference, for representing Operation Smile from the United States. Thank you so much as our partner, and thank you for doing justice, because we've traveled virtually for lots of countries in Africa, and you really know what is going on in the grassroots. And thank you for bringing that to this conference, I must say. And I also want to say thank you to everyone who contributed, who asked questions. And I also want to use this opportunity to say all the recommendations in this conference are being noted. And if you observe the way TORG is, we don't just say things, we act upon them. If we had been keeping quiet, staying in the background, waiting for the government to do something, TORG is not going to be here today. So we are noting down all the points, all the recommendations that have been given so far, and even the first day evaluation given as well, and the feedback from this conference, and even that of the second day as well, and everything that has been said today. I must assure everyone that even though that we can't build a house one day, it's going to be in stages, not just on emergency plan. Even yesterday, someone spoke in relation to the sterile processing, training, and more. So even that, I can boldly say that in relation to that, we are already working on partnership. We want to bring that training to Nigeria to make it affordable for everyone. And even bringing it to Nigeria is not just to have it just get trained and walk out of that. It should be it should be internationally recognized that even if you travel out of your domain, you can use that knowledge gained even from Nigeria and have it and use it anywhere else in the world. In terms of emergency plan, I know directors of nursing schools, medical schools, surgical technology schools are here. And as we mentioned on the first day, there are over 28 specialties represented in TORG. Lots of them are connected online. Sessions are being recorded and people are taking notices of these things. And not just that, we have power to implement something on our own. This is why we work more with partners, and we are going to follow up on advocacy plans. And as everyone saw yesterday and even previously, we are now officially part of the G4 Alliance. That is why we want to start with OER. If something is happening in an institution, we need the evidence, because you can't just walk to the government and say, this has been happening, we need to conduct a research, get hospitals that would be pilot sites that would actually give us the data that we need and analyze that and present to United Nations, because we are officially partners now with G4 Alliance, and they've got high-level relationship with World Health Organization. So if we need to bring that even to the level of Nigeria, not just Nigeria now, every country represented in TORG, we are going to do that. And I must say that this is not one thing. This conference is multidisciplinary. The operating room is diversity. TORG is about diversity. I'm not going to do it alone. I need the help of everyone. And if someone is trying to go ahead, we need support. I mean, all the directors need to come together to just do this. All the schools are here. Like, let's go back to the curriculum. Start to rebuild the things that we are teaching our students, so that even when they go out of the classes or graduate, they can actually know the right side from what is right from what is left. So in relation to everything that has been said today, recommendations are being made, and I must assure everyone that we are going to create an action plan committee after this conference that is going to be represented, like institutions, key leaders, CEOs, they are going to be represented in that committee based on key aspects that have been recommended in the conference, and then we take it forward from that and build upon it. And as we go along, we will have webinar sessions, awareness sessions that we can keep the community oriented and let them know the progress in relation to everything that has been recommended. So I must say thank you, everyone.
A round of applause. Thank you, Dr. Daniel. You can do better.